Welcome. You are going to learn so much during this video today. We're going to be analyzing Mr. Beast's video data. If you don't know who Mr. Beast is, he is one of the greatest YouTubers of all time. But what we're doing is what's important. So we're comparing cumulative values across time for videos that span different dates. That sounds like a bunch of words. So let's break it down. Let's say you have a whole bunch of videos, a whole bunch of any attributes in a model, like this. They all start at different times. Well, the most standard basic way to report this is with a line chart. But what you can see is that by default, since videos start at different times, or anything in any data model may start at different times, that there's spikes and the values are not analyzed collectively together. So what we're going to show you how to do today is a combination of DAX and visuals to create this. Check this out. Now we're taking all of the videos that start in different times, we're unifying and centralizing them at a central starting point, then comparing every single day. Within this, we're going to see how do we build this, how do we make this DAX model, and then as well, how do we create this visual that will trend this out over time. But even cooler is that we can then create something where we can click a video, click an attribute, it will take the average of everything and then score it against the video we selected. So this might sound like a lot, but you are going to learn a ton. This is going to up your Power BI skills for sure. So let's dive into Power BI Desktop. Let's go. All right, so here we are. The first thing you need to do is go into the description of this video and open up the Get file link. What that's going to do is send you to a link of this actual file. You're going to connect to the same data. You'll have all the same things. Then you can follow along. You can also get in the details and review everything as we're building this. It's going to be a session where you can follow along and use the same data. Please, if you have any questions or comments, let me know. We're going to be learning a lot. So let's dive in. What I'm going to show you first is kind of the end goal. The file that you're going to have at the bottom, you can see we're going to go through a lot of details, essentially 6 steps. So let's start with the idea of issues or examples. Well, I guess it's always good as well to kind of start with a basic of the data model so we know what we're looking at. It's going to be very simple. So we'll add to it throughout this session, but just so you can get the gist about what we're dealing with here. So we're first going to have Mr. Beast, his video data. Essentially, I've gone through a process to clean this data up. We're going to ignore the processing steps for this. You might see it on the right. We'll get into that later, though, if you want to, but we're going to focus on how to use the data. So essentially, it's the actual data from Mr. Beast's videos from 2023 forward. So what we'll have is very simplistically in this data set, a video title and the number of likes, the number of views, the number of comments that video received, and the data was published. So that's the core of the model. It's very basic data, but it's very valuable data, very cool data. So let's think about that. Here's where you get into a problem. This page, the issue examples, is going to talk through the problem we're going to be solving today. So as you can imagine, there's a whole bunch of videos. Video 1, video 2, and if you click a video, you can see, okay, a lot of people start watching it, millions and millions of people, because Mr. Beast is just the man. And as you click through these, well, we can't compare them. And the reason why is because they all start at different dates. So we can kind of visually get the gist of it. But, you know, one video starts here, the first one in 2023, something more recent, different spikes. But like, how were they all on the second day? Like, of these videos, which one was the second best on the second day? We can't tell. And that's what we're going to solve. We're going to solve that. It's super cool. So first shout out, I want to give a props to SQL BI. I put the link in the description of this as well. I gathered a lot of inspiration from this blog post. I've also added to it with some stuff we'll see through this. But check out that blog. It's insane. So let's dive in here now. So we understand the problem. Now let's look at kind of the final solution. So you have this. If we go to the right, views since published. Well, now what in the world is this doing? Check this out. This is how you're going to go through this cool process. So on the right-hand side, now we can see every video essentially is centralized or pushed to start at day 0. And then we can go through this and see, okay, well, what's this video right here? Boom. It's this one. It's at the top, ages, right there. Bam, you can hover over it. You can see date published, Okay, well, so far of his videos, that video is ranking the top. But let's compare more. Let's get into some more of the data here. So every strand is a video over time progressing. Of course, we can click, we can see what's going on. Here's this video, here's this one. But what you're seeing at the top as well is that the visual above is taking the red, and we're going to show you how to do this. So a red line is going to be the average of every video published. So as you're creating something, you can see, okay, well, on X day, day 50, how is it doing compared to the average? What's the variance? Now you can see that if we pick a lower scoring video, something like this one on picking days, but I can pick this right here, or you can come over here and pick it actually. Here's the average, way higher. So it's awesome. And I'm going to show you how to do this. It's a very important skill. Again, you have things that happen all over time. Maybe you have sales. Maybe you have reporting you need to do for call logs or anything. Well, who's doing the most? Let's take them all, centralize them cumulatively at the beginning of something, trend it over time from a new starting point. It's a clutch skill that we all need to have. So let's talk about the solution. That's the overview. We're going to go through 6 different tables. We're going to do a days since published. We're going to create that calculation. We're going to make a new table called days since. I'm going to go through these in detail, but I'm going to give the outline right now. We're then going to look at views since published. So that's going to be a new calculation. We're then going to calculate average views since published. A lot of this is DAX stuff. We're going to create the variances. Then we're going to create the filter title. And then finally, we're going to go to the views since publication. And that's where we'll land the plane at. So now I hope you're following along because we're going to go through these steps and I'm going to show you how to build this. I'm also going to give you access to the DAX. You can just take it and use it. So let's start with the concept. The first concept is this. Again, if we just look at the data, you can look at this tab. We have every video. If you click a video, we have the date, the number of views that happen on any given date. So now what we need to do is create the days since published. So what does that look like? So let's think about it this way. If we have a video here, I saved 100 dogs from dying, then we're going to abstract the days since published from the concept of date. So instead of referencing date December 23, we're going to replace it with the days since publication is 0. And then we're going to create this starting point for every entity in the data set. So how do we do that? We're going to create this calculation. So first, in the core model, we'll go to Mr. Beast videos, and there's a date since publication column. We'll create a new one so you can follow along with it. We will be remaking the stuff throughout this video so you can follow along. Okay, so we'll call it days since publication 2. So what this is doing, it's a straightforward piece of DAX that, again, it's good just to understand. It's saying create a variable, call it the historical date. We're going to go get the historical date. So essentially we're getting this date here, like January 6th, January 7th, January 8th for every video. And then we're going to take a variance. And so what that means is we're going to take this historical date and then we're going to subtract the variance. So think about it like this. Here's the date something happened. We'll minimize this. Let's make this here. We'll hit enter. So we created date since publication 2. We're just going to very simplistically say, take the date of the metrics, the 23rd, the 24th, 25th, 26th, subtract it, or subtract from that the date published, and then we're going to get the number of days since publication. So again, if we look at this, let's open it back up. I'll actually add it here just so we can keep looking at what we're creating as well. We're going to get the related date. Then we're going to very simplistically take the historical date and subtract the date published, yielding a number. And as you do that, what you might see first is if we just, let me do this here. It's kind of a healthy tip. But if we just return the days like this, without that format, you'll see it comes back as a date right here. That just changed. So we don't necessarily want, I'll make this bigger too. Let's work bigger. We don't want that to happen. We're not going to want that. So there's a couple different ways you can solve that problem. If you wanted to, you could come up to this and you could change the data type to a whole number. But there's just kind of more steps involved with that. What I like to do is just kind of format it within here. So we have the format. We're going to take the variable that we're creating, days, and just put it as a general number. And also there's a tip that it's better to do this upstream if possible, just for processing. Since we know we can calculate that maybe in a SQL database, do it there. But if it's in your model, that's cool too. So now we hit enter, check it out. We have it. What you'll want to make sure is set up is you're going to want to have it be a whole number, because we might have to sort them. We have to order them. We don't want it to be text. We want it to be a number so it can numerically sort things as needed. So change that data type to whole number, but then make sure the summarization, we don't want to sum it. So turn that to off. We don't want to sum up the days since publication. There's no reason to add 21 plus 22 days to get 43. We want to just know what it is, but have it act like a number. So that's step one, days publication. Now we need to create a table to reference that. So let's look at the model. So if I close this, we have, focus on this, Mr. Beast videos. This is where it's going to have a video title and the metrics around every video. Then there's going to be a historical date that will translate that date into month and year, so we can do calculations like a very normal date table. But what we're going to build now is the dates since table. And so this table is going to essentially create a reference for us to relate all these records together. So what do I mean by that? Let's go to the days since table. So here we are, and here's the table. If we look at it, it's a very straightforward calculation. So we're going to copy this just because we're following along together. I'm going to make a new table. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to modeling, new table, paste this sucker in there. We'll call this days since published 2. So all this is doing, it's very simple. This function values, it creates a table, a distinct listing of all the values that are essentially within any column you give. So I very much easily just said, go to Mr. Beast videos, get days since publication, and put it into a table for me. So it doesn't matter how many days there are. If it goes on for 500 or 50 million, it will make a table for me. We're gonna do 2 steps. So I've created this days since published. Now I'm gonna go here. If you notice, I don't want this to summarize. So again, don't summarize, turn this off. It can be a whole number. Boom, add this in there, days since publication. But you'll see something that's kind of cool is you might not want to see every single day, and maybe you want to group things by week. So like this, for example, week 0, here's the day, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Here's how they're rocking. Here's what's top performing, low performing. So we're going to create a week dimension as well. And this is one I kind of thought of as there's 7 days in any given week, that if we divide by it and then round down, so any decimal places will just go to the last whole number, then we can create a number of weeks as well since the beginning. So to do that, there's this function right here, and I'll talk you through it. We're going to go to our new table that we just created. We're going to say table, new column. We put this in here, weeks since publication 2. And so round down, I'll show you why to round down in a minute. We'll take that off for now. But all we're going to very easily do is say the days since published 2, I think are our new table that we created. Days since publication divided by 7. Take this column, add it here. I made that. We were just interested in the table. So now we're starting to see the week. So week 1 is this 0 through that value. So let's now round down on this by coming back to it. And we're going to say round down, comma 0. Cool. And now we can get rid of the decimal and turn this into a whole number. Okay. So now we also want to do the same thing when you create these new columns in this table. Don't summarize, but still treat it like a whole number so they'll be sorted appropriately. And weeks since publication 2, days since publication 2. Now you can see this table is created just the same. And the summary is showing up here because we added the column after. If I take it off and add it back, it's correctly not summing. So as you can see, now it's just saying day 0, day 1, day 2 through day 6 fall into weeks since publication 0, first week. We're creating that grouping. Now go to your model. And in this case, we're going to relate it. So we're going to say days since publication. I'm going to use 2 because that's what we're doing here. And I'm going to relate it to, we'll use the new 2 one just for fun, to this table right here. So we've created that correlation. And now we're on to the next step. So this is where the DAX gets a little bit more tricky. This is where more stuff kind of happens. But let's look at it together. We'll make it easy, and you'll have the DAX as well so you can get reverse engineer as you see fit. Okay, so first we're just going to look at a video. Let's say on this page, if there is a video title or not, we're going to take a video title, filters on this page. Let's just pick this first one. Keep it clean. Okay, so now we need to get the cumulative views since the starting point to create that rolling total. And what that looks like again is it's adding up all the views over time for everything that occurs. So we're not going to have these spiky sorts of graphs, but it's going to take a number and keep adding to it. So here's how we do that. Views since publication. So if we're looking at this video, we can see that here's the views. 21,000 on the first day, 31,000 on the second. So what the cumulative view would say is it would say there's about 52,000 on the second. And that's what we have over here on the right. Views since publication. We're going to look at it over here in our model under Mr. Beast Calcs. And there's a whole bucket called views since publication of different things I've kind of created. And we're going to make some room. So let's look at this. I'm going to show you a wrong one and actually a right one. So it'll be cool to kind of check that out. We'll start with the right one. So if I copy this, again, I'm going to copy it so I can make a new one and talk through it with you, as you'll be making yours as well. New measure, paste this sucker in here, view since publication 2. All right, so it's a fundamental basic kind of rolling total calculation where there's already a measure in the model called number of views that very simplistically just says sum up the number of views for every video. That's what creates a spiky chart. That's all good. So now what this is doing is it's saying first create a variable, we'll call it max, because we're going to get as it's processing every row, get the max date since publication. So say I'm a video and I was published January 1st. Well, then if we're reporting on the 6th, then the max date is going to be the 6th. So it's going to capture that for me. And now what we're going to do is we're going to say, calculate the total number of views, but the filter function, it has 2 core parameters saying the table that we want to filter and then how do we want to filter it. So what we're saying is key with this concept of all. So what we're going to do is go to days published, and then we're relating to it, and we're going to get everything, not filtered for just the day. So if it's the 6th day, then we're not going to get just the 6th, but we're going to get every single date that my video has. If it was available for 400 days, it would get all 400. But now what we're doing is we're saying, but filter it so that the number of days since publication is less than or equal to this max. So if I'm the 6th, then it will add up 0 through 6, all those 6 days, and return the value. So if I hit enter here, and I'll add it, and we'll add the comma, keep it legit. I clicked percentage by mistake. Cool, so now let's look at it. And I always like when you're creating metrics or visuals to start by just looking at one thing, then we can add more over time. So what this is saying is, all right, we have on this date, 21,000, check. All right, the next date, there's 31,000 views. So now the views since publication, it's adding up the 0 and the 1 day, getting 52. Then this day is adding up 013, 76. And this is what's important. I'm going to show you the potential wrong and what we did with this one at the bottom return of it. So basically this data set, it doesn't have data for every single day. So maybe in your data, you have a sale, but you don't have a sale every single day. And you want to stack up all the sales and how much money they bring in or something over time. So when you don't have something that happens every single day, what could be erroneous is if we look at this wrong one, and if I copy this, it's the same calculation, but minus this blank thing I'm going to show you. So what I mean, it's always easier to look at stuff. We'll look at it here together. I'm going to add this new calculation. I actually don't need to create it. I'll just select it and show you. So if I pick the view since publication wrong, well, first off, new row showed up. But what actually happens is for days that don't have any view or an actual file or representation, like the second, I don't have the metrics for the actual what happened on the second. So it's incorrectly putting in like a null value for that. So to fix it, if you look at what's going on with the view since publication calculation, we say, well, if the whole thing we create, or if the max date is blank, so like on the second, if I don't have anything, then just return blank and return the calc. And then when you do that, that fixes it, because you'll see this wrong version doesn't have that down there. And that's why that happens. So if we come back, we have this. I'm going to remove this wrong one. So to recap, now we have created a calculation that for any date will, or any video, however you're looking at it, it's going to add up the things associated by days since for anything before it and create this running total. Average views. This one takes a minute to process. There's more stuff happening in here. So let's talk about what this is. So now on the left-hand side, right here, zoom in a little bit. I'll try to make this a little smaller so it pops out. There's just a ton of data. Sometimes your solutions have to have a lot of data. It's just how it has to do. So what I've done here is I've actually only selected a couple videos. I selected 4 videos. And why I did that is because if I bring in more, well, this table is bringing in a ton of records. Sometimes it just crashes out. So we don't want to mess with that. So what we're doing is for all these videos, we're saying, okay, on day 0, they had 74 million views on their first day, which is insane. So views since publication for all those is 74. But then on day 1, they all aggregate. They all had 129,000 million views. So now the view since publication, 203,000, it's working. That just shows that this rolling total is working. But now I'm curious because for our other visual, when we get into views since publication, this one up here, we can see some deltas. So like I can see here that 7 days stranded on an island, this video is just barely above the threshold of the average variance for the entire group for what's available of every video. And you'll see it changes if you click, you know, the first week, here's kind of where that threshold is. The second moves a little bit. Third moves, and there's a slight thing of videos kind of changing, getting more momentum. But what you can do with these average calculations is create variances. So like this thing at the top. As this loads up now, well, because I'm creating the average, I can see how a video compares to all the other videos, all from the same point in time. And then you can create different metrics of this as you see fit. So again, we're going to start now with how do we get to this average line going across? Average views since publication all. There's also going to be an option to get all selected, and we'll talk about that too. So average views since publication. This sucker right here. So what it's doing in the background, sometimes it's easier to see it maybe if we just pick 2. I like to conceptually talk through a calculation, then show it to you so we can track with it. So what this is saying is if we have 2 videos picked and it's reporting, oh, actually, we want to have all the videos picked, don't we? So I'm going to come back to here. I'll show you in here. I'll pick day 0 and I'm going to select every video. Okay. So here's how we check metrics are working. On day 0, here's all the videos. Here's all their views, days since publication. But now the average of all these views since publication for this date is right here, 18 million. So we're creating it. That's a calculation. View since publication all is an option, but then all selected is another option. So remember that view since publication all is every video. And now the all selected is going to function more. What if I just want to see how 3 videos do against each other? Give me that average. Cool, I'll pick 4. So in this case, the number for average views for all the videos in the whole model still stays the same at 18 million. But now we have the average views since publication just for the selected. So of these 4 videos, they've all had an accumulating views since publication of 99 million, but the average for each video is 24. So we could see who's below and above that with other reporting, kind of like what we're doing upstream here if we wanted to. So let's talk about how to calculate this thing. I'm going to go back to this right here. Okay, so we'll start with average views since publication all. So we're going to come to the right-hand side, and I'm going to get the average views since publication all. I'm going to copy this. We'll make a new one. I'll talk through it because we know this is working. So for all, I'm going to pick all of these videos. We're going to look at them. And so the goal is to get this number because it's doing it correctly, this first column. So we're going to go here, new measure, paste this in. Let's talk through it. All 2. Okay. So the first thing we're going to do is, because we want to keep calculating this as time grows, it's the same concept of get the max. So if I was published, the days since published, if I was, if I'm reporting on the 12th published date, this is going to get that date. Now calculate. It's a pretty straightforward concept. It's kind of repeating the same thing we've already done, where we're going to calculate, but instead of doing an aggregation or a sum, we're going to use a different aggregation function called average x. And what it's going to ask for, and this is the one tricky part, is average x is different from average. I have a video about average x if you want to check it out. But essentially what it's going to do, it's going to iterate over every single row of a table. So you have to feed this function a table. And then as you feed it a table, it's going to calculate the average across that table for every single row you give. So in this case, because we're doing, we're calculating this for every video, I'm feeding it first a table that essentially just says return every video and return every single view for that video, view since publication. So we're getting that. And then I'm filtering the table to say filter all to only bring back the days since publication that are less than what we're reporting on. So to talk through this again, say it's the 6th. Say we're 6 days out, just the row. So it's going to say, okay, the max days published are 6. So let's make a table and get every Mr. Beast video. And we're going to get their title and the number and put that in a table, left and right column next to each other, view since publication and the video ID. Then let's filter that down. So the data that's going to go to that table is going to be everything from Mr. Beast videos that has a date since publication of less than or equal to 6. So it's going to say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it's going to roll it all up. So then we can get the average of that, and it's going to calculate it at every single row. And that's essentially what's going on for average since publication all. And you create it, and boom, you're there. So there's another cool thing where if we wanted to get the average for selected, like if we pick 2, well, we can see this one had 21,161. This one had 21,831. It's accurately now calculating the average views of 2121 for all the videos that are selected. So what's the difference? One little function. And all that is going to be in here is instead of filtering by all, we're picking all selected. All selected is a great tool to have in your toolbox. Don't ever forget it. It basically allows, and this is a little bit more deeper in DAX, but there's inner context and outer context, or inner query, outer query. So within the query and all this stuff that's happening, all selected says we're going to allow the outer things that are happening in the report, like filtering, impact this and filter it out. So then instead of saying here's every video, it's only going to give 2 because I've picked 2. So those are the calculations for average views. Now we want to get some variances. These are pretty straightforward because I like to call things, I think it's delta is cool with a symbol. Boom, put it in there. But now we're doing the views since publication average for all videos. So if we have a video here and this is just simple minus, subtraction. Views since publication minus the average views. And what's helpful for this, for the variances, is if we look at the views since publication, we're getting these deltas now. So what this is saying is ages 1 through 100 fight for $500,000 has been published for 332 days. It has a total views since publication of 348 million. And this is above the average for that time, for the time that it's at. For the time that it's at is what's clutch. So again, if we look at something new, like this one that's only been published for 2 days, well, if you click it, there's just a little data, 2 days, boom, boom. But within these 2 days, it's received 68 million views since publication. And for this video's calculated time in life, which is 2 days, it is $8.2 million above, or views above the average. So it is very, very, very cool to understand how to use these deltas, because what you'll be able to do is to create some next level visuals with it. So again, these variances are saying, let's just take the division, or not the division, I'm sorry, the subtraction to get, here's a video, view since publication for any date, and then you're subtracting it from the average based upon what's going. So if we look at a date, maybe we can even look at just a video, and we'll bring back everything. So like here's a video. Now we see it's accurately calculating the views every single day since publication. It's growing over time. Now this right here is the delta of the average views for every video, which is right here. So this video has 21 million. Well, the calculation we just talked about said average for everybody is 18. So now the delta says this is 2.1 million above the average. You have that metric now locked in, ready to go. Finally, another very cool thing is creating this chart on the left. And this is a way that you can create another measure that essentially only shows up when you have a video selected. So if I take this away, you'll see it's gone. What this curve is doing, it's saying average views since publication for everything. But I want to create something like this, where if I pick one video, it's gonna show me that. And the reason why we can't have it like put the average like this is because you don't want to show an average for every single video with a billion things on the legend. You need to filter it down to make sense out of it. So what there is in this calculation is some logic for, I'll call it the filtered title. If we look at this, the view since publication single title, click into this. It looks like a lot, but it's very straightforward and simple. So we're doing that same thing we do for all the other ones because it's always rolling. We're getting the max date. But what we're going to want for this is filtered. What the is filter does is it checks to see, is there a filter on Mr. Beast videos on this column I have? And I just kind of added to it because I really wanted to ensure that it was coming down. So is a filter applied? Yes. And then has one filter? Yes. Has one value? Yes. You can play with these, but this is really just saying now, if there's more than 2 videos selected, we're going to say we're not going to show you because it's just going to be null as you don't return something in an if statement. And actually looking at this was for something I was trying to calculate. We don't even need that up there. We can just do that. Oops, do all this. We're going to say this. So what's happening here is the view since publication, single title. If I pick one, pick too many, pick one, boom. How cool is that? So again, that is then how you can achieve this. And now the view since publication, a dashboard like this, copy this file, check it out, look at it. But essentially you can do some cool conditional formatting. So these are some options for how to use that data. The classic that I just love, man, is this first one where it's like, here's all the videos. They all start at day 0. We can see that this one's been running the longest. 1,000 blind people see for the first time. This one's shot up. You know, it has the most right now. But what if someone says, in the first 2 weeks of any video being published, what's that looking like? All right, let's just click it. 1, 2, 3, 2 weeks. Let's go even more. 3. So things kind of come in and come out. Oh, it's because I have different things selected too. Come like this. Select all, select all. I was picking days incorrectly, but we're going to go 0, 1, 2. So first 2 weeks, you can see things kind of ramping up. Well, right here, you can look in this line, face your biggest fear, win all this stuff, right here at the top. Face your biggest fear at the top, who's winning, the variance. This is how much it is above on that second week. 28 million views. So that one took off real fast. This one down here, hanging out. You can do so much with this now. This is how you, again, analyze cumulative values, trending over time for data that's on different start dates, aligning it back to the center to create awesome metrics like this now. Please, if you like this, hit subscribe, like it, hit me a comment, send me a question. I'm all about it. I love some Power BI. I hope you find a ton of value in this. Again, check out the notes in the description. Check out this file, and y'all keep rocking that Power BI. I will talk to you later. Bye.